Hey, Hottie. If you like the show and we've been helpful in your journey as a designer, here's how you can help us and show your support for the show for free.
So first, rate us on Apple Podcasts. And if you're feeling extra generous, write us a review. All you got to do is scroll down on Apple Podcasts and the review section is at the bottom.
And it's really helpful if you share our show with friends, whether it's in a Facebook group, on your Instagram. And while you're there, you can also follow us on your socials at Hot Young Designers Club.
Yeah, thanks, hotties.
Thank you. We appreciate it. It really does help.
Welcome to the Hot Young Designers Club podcast.
I'm Rebecca Plum, your big sister.
And I'm Sean Surha, your GBF.
We're not that hot or that young,
but we believe it's a state of mind that helps us build adaptable and profitable businesses.
We rely on the support of our design besties to get through each day.
So let's explore the emotional, practical, and humorous sides of being interior designers.
Welcome to the club. Hey, Sean.
What's up, Rebecca?
Today we have Heather Knight-Wilcock with us. Welcome, Heather.
Thank you. I didn't realize that part was live. You guys always do it exactly the same.
Oh, we do.
It's real. It's the real.
We've done it a few times.
I mean, how many different ways can we say, hey, what's up? You know, there's only so many.
We're like a little robot. It's
pre-record.
AI. It's definitely AI.
No.
Okay, I'll try to mix it up next time somehow.
We're for real. This is the real show.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Heather, welcome. We know you.
Thank you.
Full disclosure to our audience, we like to talk to people we kind of know. But
and Heather's
I'm a
know
big
cool people.
DC fan. Yeah, Sean and I live local, like 10 minutes from each other, which is nice.
So do you want to just give us a overview of what you do, your businesses, and their names and stuff?
Yes. So I am self-branded. So it's Heather KW Styles is all my handles across all the platforms. I own an interior design firm here in Southern California, mainly based in kind of like Long Beach, North Orange County. I do not go too far. And I also own a staging company, which is branded Copper Interiors, that does real estate staging. So a little bit of a double house, all in-house.
So just like you have tons of extra free time.
Tons of extra free time. Yeah, I'm looking to pick up several more hobbies if anyone has some suggestions.
What? So you started with the staging? Is that right?
No.
Okay.
Well, I would call it decorating, right? So I don't have a traditional design background. My majors were in journalism and fine art. And I started just going into straight decorating. So your wall treatments, your curtains, your furnishings, that sort of stuff. And then I really heavily moved into construction about 5 years ago. So started doing a lot of renovation heavy projects. And then we added in staging 2 years ago when a friend approached me who is a local realtor and a rehabber. And she was like, I hate everyone. I don't want to work with the people that are the options. Like, I just can't. Would you be open to adding that branch to your business? And so we had a big chat about it. And based on kind of my business models, made a lot of sense. And we love it. It's been a really, really good addition.
That's a really big ask. So because it's not
would
just
you just starting another business?
No, I'm not saying she shouldn't have, but it's not just can you try this service? You had to start building inventory and managing.
Oh yeah, we put $45,000 into that side of the business in terms of product investment. So, and she's an equal partner in that.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
So that's not just all out of my business, but it's a lot. But we also love to shop, and that's probably half the problem.
Yeah.
It's become a real easy outlet for our shopping addictions in terms of you know what it's like. You're out there and you see something, you're like, that's a good deal. And for many years, I had nowhere to place it, right? Oh, I don't have a perfect client for this. I don't have XYZ. Now I can kind of pick it up, roll it into our inventory, and then potentially even sell it on at the end of the day. So it's been pretty fun, to be honest.
And maybe store it in your house for a little while.
Well, that was what we were doing. We were definitely doing a bit of that and working out of storage units. And then recently we actually got a warehouse. So I'm speaking to you from the new office warehouse.
Congratulations. Yeah, that's really fresh.
It is. We've only been in for a couple weeks. The warehouse part of it is super fun. Like anyone that comes over wants to go shopping because it's just racks and racks of like vintage pieces and
Oh my
lamps and
God.
rugs and like all that sort of stuff. But I know it's been good. It's been good to not have to crawl through a storage unit.
Oh my God. I can't
And like everything's
imagine.
stacked and stacked on each other, like no room.
And I have like funny mental recall. Like we were joking earlier about not being able to remember recipes for drinks, but like my mental recall of locations of things is pretty good. So I'll be like, I need that one stool in the third
Yeah.
unit in the back left.
Ooh.
Something with I have that too, where like I can visually. Have you ever heard
I
of
see it.
Have you ever heard? This is like a tangent, but that it's a memory recall tool of putting things in a place in your mind. So like you build a house or a castle or something that you can really visualize of a place in your mind, and you take a piece of information and you put it in the drawer of that dresser, or you like tuck it on the third shelf. I read this novel that these two people is a way of studying like super super big pieces of information.
Do you do that?
Interesting.
I don't practice it, but I think I innately do it a little bit. Like
Yeah.
kind of what we're talking about, like a very
Yeah.
rudimentary version where my brain can kind of like see the space and I can
Mhm. I'll
locate
remember
it.
it.
Yeah.
Like I will really remember where things are very specifically. Like it's just as simple as where things are in the fridge. Like I just know
Yeah.
this is up here and in the back. You know what I
Or
mean?
in
I
a
think that's
book, like I know it's on the left page, like halfway down
the way my
somewhere.
brain stores information is very much aligned with that. But have you ever heard of the one where you blow things up
No.
to
What?
remember something? Yeah, so this is another like memory recall trick where if you want to remember something, like don't forget the keys on the console to so and so, you visually think of where those things are and you make it explode in your mind. And then your mind, when you are actually in the space, will recall that way quicker.
It
So I
creates
do
like a
that
little
sometimes.
trauma
So you
response or
do like a
something.
Michael Bay
Probably.
movie? Like, yeah, you're just like,
Weird. It
I
makes
mean, you're
I
just trying to
heard
sense.
that
make it more
years ago.
memorable. Like, make it.
Yes, yes.
I now have created like another memory around this
Visual.
beside
Yeah.
just putting, oh, I put them in a bowl. It's like, and then I blew up the bowl and then there was shrapnel. So you're
Yeah.
like trying to make it more of a moment because we do things so absentmindedly of putting things down
hmm
or, oh, shoot, I forgot that thing. I wonder if it would work with something that's not tangible, like tasks you're supposed to do. I'm just,
like you
I
shut the
don't,
dishwasher and then it explodes.
I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah, like or your laundry because I always leave my laundry way too long. I always leave it in the washer just sitting there, and then it only beeps
That's
like one time, and I'm like, oh shit! Like
Oh, that stinks now. I gotta rewash
that's
it.
yeah. I gotta like rewash it and sanitize it again. Great.
Okay,
Anyway,
so sorry, I took us on a tangent. But
that's what
going
we do.
back, so how like I've always been just really tempted with the staging bit, but it does seem like two different audiences and talking to two different client bases. Like how is that working for you?
So it's so funny too, because I was talking to a client recently about this, and I always was nervous that my design clients would be like, "Ugh, what else are you doing besides focusing exactly on my
Mm,
project?" Right? Like, they all think they are the main
none, yeah.
character. But I was speaking to one recently, and she was like, I actually bet that complements your business very much. And I was like, thank you for seeing it from my point of view,
Mhm.
because it really does. So I would say I kind of budget for the staging, like having one extra client a month. It's not like an all day, everyday thing. We only work with a handful of realtors that we have a really tight
Mm.
relationship with. We're not trying to branch out too fast and too heavy, right? Like we really have relationships that we've built, and a staging walkthrough is like 30 minutes. It's
Mm,
not like meeting a new client. You could be there for 2 hours. You blink and you're like, oh crap, that was a 2 hour meeting. It's a quick walkthrough. They know what we do. I measure really quickly. Me and my girlfriend that I run this side of the business with have very different roles. And then staging's a day. And then it sits there, hopefully real quick, right? We have a lot of projects that get sold the
right.
first weekend. And then we're pulling it and, as soon as escrow closes. But sometimes they sit there for months. So like one staging job really only takes us 2 days. So for us, it's been lucrative and if you look at the hours, right? Like how long you actually dedicate to it,
And you're not
that's
marketing
really
because you
worked.
have Yeah.
We have our little roster that we work with. And then on the flip side of that, I've gotten clients off the staging. So I have had people, I leave all our business cards and all of that. I've had them walk through. I had clients, my project Marna that I finished this year, they didn't get the house that was staged, but they loved the staging. So they reached out and then I styled their whole house. And they were fantastic clients. So it feeds into my design business a bit too. And then it's also it's like I said, they have a little bit of an overlap in terms of like all my staging items I can now use for photo shoots. So you know what that's like when you're prepping for a photo shoot and you're like, and then all of a sudden you spend $1,000 because you're like, but I want this plant and this lamp and I need kitchen towels are expensive.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. And like finding them and they're not all local the day before the shoot. Like I'm looking for them. What about, so are your realtors that you work with like selling a certain level of home? Like, does that help that it's translating a little bit into clients?
We are in Southern California.
Sure.
So prices are a little hot and heavy. We kind of sit around the $1.1 million, $1.2 million mark, 950, kind of the higher. That's not higher in Southern California.
Not anymore, sadly.
It's not
4 years ago, yeah.
Yeah. 3-bed, 2-bath.
But it's not a tiny like condo or like
no, we don't really do little condos. No, and we only really worked in rehabbed homes too, so they're blank. So we have done a couple of projects where there is a client, but they don't live there. We're really specific about, I don't want someone living around our items, moving them, kids running around, right? So we are walking into like a blank space, which is really great. Then another kind of layer of that too is that like, I know you guys must get this too. I get the itch to style. And I don't get to do that a ton, right? We get to do it in our own homes, in our offices, that sort of stuff. But I'm like, I just want to fuss.
Like it's the playfulness of what we do that is I want to
play
a little bit.
Well, so sorry, I have like so many questions. But so how does the creative angle come in? Like who sets the tone of like, do you have like a story? Like we're selling to a family of 4 with
so me and my girlfriend definitely do that. My business partner, Gisela, we always come up with some crazy story. It tends to be like, we have like engineers in our heads or like, this is a professor at a university and it's a single mom. Like we come up with these really wild stories that we are like playing to depending on what we're staging. So our standard package is like a primary bedroom, living room, dining room, kitchen, 1 bathroom. When you start adding in the other bedrooms, then we're like, oh, is it a kid's room? Is it an office? Do you work from home?
Yeah.
Like we lean really heavily into cool art. So we have a lot of really big, cool art pieces because they travel well, they store flat, and they make a statement. They look really good in pictures, right?
So as a
stage, exactly, they fill a wall. So we lean into like very cool art, lighting. Like we're not necessarily, I'm not going to drag in a massive dresser or in a huge console and that sort of stuff that are harder for stagers to work around and for those items to have longevity, because that's the other bit. I want to use it 30 times. So we kind of come up with a little story and then we play. We really do on the day. We come up with the basis for every room, this rug, this bed, these nightstands, this couch, these chairs, and then we just style. And that's the other thing, is that we are better than most in our area in terms of actually styling the space. And I think that comes from my design background.
Yeah,
is I can come in and do a shelfie that's cuter than anyone else's shelfie. You know what I mean? And doesn't feel staged. We don't want it to feel staged. We want it to feel aspirational.
Yeah.
But achievable.
Right. Like not like too fancy. So I would imagine then you get a lot of creative flexibility and like you do get to kind of flex and
no
do
one's
like,
micromanaging you at all. No one micromanages it because the realtors we work with, they know what we do, right? Yeah. The aesthetic isn't too polarizing. And like I said, it's achievable, but aspirational. It's just of the time. If it makes any sense. We probably appeal to the women a little bit more than men in terms of like, we know the emotional appeal quite often is the women. I have to have this house. It's so cute. You know I was like that when I was house shopping.
It's an emotional decision they're making for that. Like
it is. And so kind of making it make sense too. And you guys know, people don't have any vision. They really don't. And so
No,
they're,
they can't see beyond like ugly furniture a lot. And
God,
that's
yeah.
where it's like I was specifically looking for my house. I'm like, okay, find me something that has horrible old wallpaper, bad carpet, like easy
yes,
stuff to
please.
fix. But most people are like, ew.
Uh-huh. And you guys know that from working with people. Even if
Yeah.
you put together the most thorough game plan, some a 3D model even, they
Doesn't
still
matter.
have struggle like seeing it, right? So we're helping
Yeah.
clients get closer to it by trusting us, right? There has to be that level of trust in
Yeah.
there. But the
And
staging lets people see past
yeah.
maybe a slightly smaller living room, right? You're like,
Mhm.
oh, well, let's not put a giant couch in here. Let's put a couch and two chairs. Like, let's
Like
make this
it's
actually
scaled.
scale. People get so wrong.
I
Every
know that
time.
I find in even just like my renderings to client presentations, if I start styling them a little bit, like, okay, I'm going to put a plant on the shelf and a
Drop
few
it in.
books and like start like making it look more homey, people like see the vision and feel like emotionally tied to it, like you were saying.
But then you're like, I'm not going to need a budget for that.
Yeah, you're going to have
Yeah.
to pay for styling if you want that. Like,
We
Right.
should almost do side by sides with client presentations. Like, here's the bones. This is what you've paid for. Here's if
yeah.
we styled it, but that costs more.
Every time I do a photo shoot, I think I'm going to do that. Like, let's shoot it like raw dog, like nothing in it. Have it like, especially if there's one
Yeah.
shelves and like surfaces, like shoot
Mhm.
it plain and
Blank.
then come and style it so people could really see that side by side and just how much it changes the room. Like,
They would love that. People love it before and after. They
I know.
do. They really, really do. And it's one of the reasons I always include the befores on my website because I want people to scroll down and see what it looked like when we
You know,
walked in.
I thought
We were
that's
just
so
talking about
interesting that
that.
you do that to like, it's like a stark comparison.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
Rebecca has been talking about wanting to build them into blog posts. So that way the portfolio for her, it would be like, right, Rebecca, your portfolio would still be self-contained,
Mhm.
but then adding the befores or adding progress photos or other stuff so people can understand like, hey, this is where we came from. Like it all looks so beautiful, but it
Yeah,
took work to get
I'm
there.
gonna like bump it also just like beefs up content. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna write this is my grand plan, but my portfolio, yeah, there'll be like just kind of the high level, little bit of description, little case study, but then like do my verbal diarrhea blog posts that I write with a lot of before and after and process and thoughts going into it. So, but then I'm gonna link it from the portfolio, I think. Like
Is
to
there,
see
I love
more.
the breakout. Is there a reason to keep it as a breakout versus
Just so it's not
all?
so long, I think, because I think when
Okay.
people get to this, because I'm envisioning the blog post being pretty lengthy. So
Mhm.
when
Mm-hmm.
people want to just see, okay, who's this girl? Like, what's her
Mm.
work look like? And just be able to quickly like scroll through portfolio, but then to take another level and dig if they want to read more, then they could.
See, I love that for the breakout. I try to capture that in the portfolio, right? If you're inclined to keep moving down the page, I have
Keep scrolling.
my design presentations in there. I have not every single page, but like the beefy
Yeah.
pages. I have the befores in there. I have elevations in there, just so I feel like clients, when they're looking at the website, can kind of get a real grasp on what they receive from the luxury
Yeah. No, I
service, right?
think
Because
that's
it's a
really
high end
smart.
service.
It's very
But I like the
confusing for
idea
people.
of, because I also link the highlights to my Instagram, because most of my projects I carry on with highlights of, site visits and that sort of stuff. I link that in there too, and that brings them to my Instagram. But to have that
Yeah,
all
I
in a
like how you do
breakout
that.
of like actual still images that are like progress with the SEO heavy blog would be really
Yeah.
smart.
And it's like the case study of it all is something we've been
It's the
talking about a
writing.
lot of
Yeah.
just like as
Mm-hmm.
you write the story, it's making it easier for people who really can't envision like, oh, what went all into this, but by being able to
Mm-hmm.
describe like I guess it's like it has to do with how we're all different types of learners and the way we take in information. It's that same idea for a potential client is some can imagine, oh, I see all the like 4,000 decisions that had to go into it. That's why I'm looking for you. And then there's some who know, I just want to get to the end result,
Mm-hmm.
but I need like that person is questioning maybe the price they're paying and they don't understand what they're getting. So seeing what you're doing and having mood boards and some of the elevations and the floor plans so they can kind of wrap their head around, but what actually do I get for this number, is helpful for the people who can't translate something as ambiguous as that.
Yeah, and how creative were you? Because when you see it before and after, like, that's just like, "Whoa, I never would have pictured that." Clients
Mm-hmm.
absolutely
Mhm.
love that, so that's why I wanna do that too. Yeah, also, like, sometimes I feel like I want to explain, like, for instance, this project that I'm just putting into my portfolio, like, we painted some wood planked ceilings that it was, like, kinda controversial on Instagram when I was doing it, but, there's a reason for it and, like, a thought process. They weren't that nice of
Mm-hmm.
wood ceilings, like, and the room was dark and everything was orange. So, like, I had reasons, so, like, I want
Yeah.
to put that all in, but we left them in the bedroom, so because it made sense and we worked the design around it. So,
Yeah, I
that
mean,
kinda stuff.
design does make a lot more sense with context sometimes too, right? Because people don't have all that context when they're just looking at a picture.
But most
And
people
it's
won't
hard.
read it, so what you're doing makes sense too,
It's the
like
SEO. It's the SEO, Rebecca, though, because
yeah,
you
that's
know to
true.
get people there, Google
Yes.
wants the word soup.
That's
They
true.
need to know all the keywords of like full bathroom renovation and like down to the studs, like those types of
I
words
But
probably
know.
even, like,
catch the
wood
most
planked
attention.
ceilings, like, if I had that house and I was trying to figure out how to solve it, like, I would be searching those kinds of terms.
And then having a designer explain the thought process, right?
Yeah,
Then you're really like, oh, I feel validated that I want to paint these,
I have
right?
permission.
Like,
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
I've I think it's really good to see that you've like told the story because you have kind of also another part of your process that helps. Like if clients are seeing that, you kind of make them jump through another hoop or two to make sure that you like them, right?
I've been reevaluating that a
Okay,
little
but
bit.
do you want to tell us
Okay, I
how it's
wanna
been
know
going and
what
then
the
why you're
hoop
thinking
is.
about reevaluating it?
I have a very close relationship with clients I take on. And that is not everyone's approach, but design and being in someone's home and working with their needs is really personal for me. And I think there's a lot of value in that too. So, as you're growing and building your business, you're kind of taking on anything that looks pretty appealing, right? Even red flags and all. And a couple years
Okay.
ago, I had a couple real good red flag clients that I knew from the first jump that this was not going to be a great fit. And, plot twist, it wasn't a great fit. So
Nailed
I
it.
decided about
Surprise.
2 years ago that I would not take any red flag clients. And so one of those red flags for me is people that are not willing to participate or do anything, right? And I come from a very luxury service background. I worked in really high end fine art galleries for 15 years.
Mhm.
So I was used to dealing with clients who do nothing to participate in the process, and everything should be catered to them. And that's just not the way I want my business to run.
Yeah.
So I want to have open, candid relationships with my clients. I want them to trust me with the space. And I find that if a client is not willing to even create a Pinterest board, they're probably not going to be a good fit, right? Like Pinterest is user friendly. Like it's
Yeah.
not some big obstacle, and it also helps you get a little bit closer. So I have a pretty detailed survey that is like the entry survey, and then I have a 15-30 minute free phone call that I have with clients, prospective clients, and then another detailed survey and a Pinterest board that I require before we can even put together like on the
Proposal?
calendar for me to come out, and just for me to come out.
Mm,
Because I think that I mean, you guys will know this too. People don't have the vocabulary.
no.
So they
Mhm.
say they want something, and then you think, okay, based on those words, this is what I think you mean. But without them providing you actual visuals to go off
Uh-huh.
of, you're like, that isn't gray. That's teal, my love.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And or like that's actually not modern. Like I
hmm
wouldn't call that modern, but they think they're being like all fresh and hip or something and you're like, "Yeah, that's not it." But
Or I
okay,
had a
like I
And,
just
client
need
and
to know like
I had a client recently tell me she didn't like blue, and I'm like, "Okay, but, like, you're wearing blue, your rug is blue. Like, do you like
Mhm.
those things? And she's like, actually, you're right. I think I do like it, but
But
only
denim,
certain
but I actually like
tones.
a denim shade,
Right.
right? Like,
Like, not
yeah.
all blues are created equal. Like, so yes.
So I think that for me, it is that, and this eliminates people. It does. And I'm fully aware of that. And so it is something I'm thinking in 2025, like, do I shorten the first end of the process? I'm not sure.
Have you
But
had
for me,
feedback?
it's people don't mind it that carry all the way through. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then
Mm.
I reference it. I've started uploading all of those forms into ChatGPT. I'm creating my client bots. I have them to reference back to. I feed the Pinterest into ChatGPT. Like
Mm.
it really helps me get a better
Mm.
understanding of these clients
Hmm.
because so much of what we do is translating, right? And you're translating
Mhm.
what people want, what they need. Um, and so, yeah, there are a little few hoops to jump through, but it also it helps me safeguard my energy, if that makes any sense, right? Like because I do feel like these are relationships we're entering.
Well, do you think are you doing it to develop trust? Like, is that the way you're
And start conversations. It's really so I can start conversations. Like I can really read their like onboarding surveys and, oh, you have two dogs. That's amazing. Okay. Is there any needs that we have for these two dogs? Are any of them elderly? Like, do we have to think about, are we precious with our rugs or are we going to go on a lower end because you probably want to replace it every year? It does help start a lot of
for
conversations that
sure.
I think clients don't always feel the need to tell you about until you're almost too deep,
Yeah,
right?
then they're
And
Yeah,
you're
and you're like,
like,
saying,
"That
oh,
was
wait.
important 8 weeks ago." Like
Yeah, I spent 4 hours looking at nightstands, but you're now telling me you don't actually want storage. You just want tchotchke display, right? So it's like, you just want some shelves, but I've been showing you things with storage. You know what I mean? They're like, so a lot of
Uh-huh.
these questions start really good conversations. So a lot of my onboarding are in depth chats where I'm asking all kinds, even down to like, what's your coffee order? You know what I mean? All those sort of things. And then the whole process, I can cater to them a bit better. I already understand them. I know where they like to vacation. I know how often they vacation. Um,
no, I agree, and I think some of it's important. I have questioned, though, for myself. Like, I have a client recently that they were participating and giving me information, but they all he they were also very clear up front, like, I don't like a lot of forms, like, questionnaire like, filling shit out, like, they're not that brained, like, they wanna talk
yeah.
and have a conversation, so
It can zap the fun out of it. I could see that.
hmm
well, or just they're not gonna do it, but they are still very, like, wanting to be involved and have ideas. So I'm just wondering if there's another way, like, could you offer, like,
That's
an
an in person
interview?
for sure.
Yeah, an
Mhm.
interview version where you're actually doing the questionnaire for
Yeah,
them
like, if I'm, cause
in
like, if
person or on
for
the
like,
phone.
for me, I'm hourly. So for me, I'd be like, "Yeah, we can do that, and I'm happy to do that. You are gonna pay for that time
Right.
if I do
hmm
that." I think both of you are doing a lot of stuff flat right now, so it's like, maybe you have to add on something for that if they're really gonna not wanna do it themselves kinda thing.
That's a vibe check to me, also, Rebecca. It's like that
Yeah.
30-minute phone call that is free for new
Yeah.
potential clients is where I'm seeing, like, do we actually get along? Because that's a big part. Are we having a chuckle every couple minutes? You know
Right.
what I mean? Am I picking up what you're throwing down and vice versa? Like, so if I felt really inclined to a client and they're like, hey, I'm a doctor, I don't have the
Right.
time, I'll bring coffee, right? Because now I've got your coffee order and we'll sit down and go through all of this because the information requirements don't go away. I still need to know if you hate
Totally.
plaid,
Right.
right? It's like,
Totally. Yeah.
I still need to know all that. And then we can definitely do that more intimately. But I've been finding that the initial survey, they send that back. It's pretty quick. It kind of gives budget range. Where do you live? How did you find out about me? That sort of stuff. And then I send them back a really detailed, I think it's like 6 pages, 5, 6 pages, like a working with us document
Mm.
that really kind of breaks stuff down also. And then that will self eliminate some people. There's
Yeah.
some basic pricing in there. It explains how I am a flat rate service, but a cost plus model. It explains a lot of those things because I do want people to self eliminate. I do.
Yeah.
Like,
We all should, like
break up with me
yeah.
first.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
And because it's ours, and as a flat rate designer, like I have to safeguard that. I really do. And we're not cheap. We're not. And so just knowing that people can see kind of the initial estimate of like where we come in at. I don't know anything about your project, but I know a small bathroom costs about this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and especially because I do a lot of construction. So those numbers are big. Kitchen renovations are coming in here. Like, and then people can figure it out. And I also work just for myself. I don't have an assistant. Everything is done in house. So I really only have a handful of projects at a time. I can't take on 16 jobs. So making sure that they're the right jobs is super important, and that, the relationships can last a year, 2 years,
Right.
some of these renovations.
I mean, it does, like, when we really think about that, the investment upfront does make sense for this longer commitment. Like, I mean, honestly,
Mhm.
like, I think have we interviewed a designer that said they, like, go to dinner with potential
Oh, I feel like
clients?
someone did say that.
Especially if it's gonna be, like, like,
Mhm.
multi-year like, of course, like, you really probably should invest a couple dates in before you
At
get
least to
married, you
feel
know?
like, yeah, I feel like we have a good rapport and we can
Like, we
have
don't
these
need to be
conversations.
besties, but,
Yeah.
like, we have a partnership of the sort that needs
Hmm.
to happen.
And we can
Yeah.
get through things that are gonna be potentially have a little bit of conflict or roughness along the way, because there will be.
You're like, "First, we need to go on a 3-day weekend together."
Yeah. Well, I also want to meet all decision-making parties.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't need some midnight coming in husband out of nowhere who's going
Uh,
to veto everything we talked about. And so, like, that's another thing where I've had people try to sidestep their partner, and I'm like, mm-mm,
it's
I
gonna
can't.
it's just gonna be painful for everybody down the road. Like, it's not gonna save time. It's not gonna be easier thinking we already made decisions, because usually they're gonna, like, torpedo.
And I've had sleeper people who don't respond to anything, but they are CC'd on every email. They are CC'd on every invoice. They see it, right? Because I'm like, I don't need problems down the line that one person's agreeing to something and then someone didn't realize that they could weigh in on something too, right? They can have an opinion. I want everyone to be happy at the end of a project.
I know.
So I don't do the sleeper partner who never says anything. Like, I need them. I don't need them in every meeting, but I need them to see the presentations that are coming through and all that sort of stuff too.
I
And you
just
can have
love
someone
that.
that's a bit more forward, like, the husband's taking the lead. I just had that. That's great. But I need to know that someone, at least I'm giving them the opportunity to participate. They can
Right.
participate as much as they want, but I'm giving them the opportunity to weigh in.
I have had one, like, really great client where I only met the husband, I think, once, and it was over a year. 'Cause he just was busy, like, he just worked a lot or whatever, he wasn't home during the day, but I did meet him once, and he said, "I don't really care what you guys do.
Hmm.
Like, visually, I just need to know all I care about is the budget. I need to know that you're not gonna give me one number and it's gonna creep up 50%
Hmm.
because that's happened before." He's like, "This is the stuff that I care about." And I'm like, "Okay, fair enough."
Let's
Like,
roll. Let's
that's
roll. Like, that's all I
perfect.
Like,
needed to know.
As long
they
as you're
gave us
not gonna
boundaries. I love
long
the
as you're not gonna care
boundaries.
later of we put a pink couch like you said, you can put a pink couch in and I wouldn't even care.
I love
Done.
that.
Yeah, we
Threaten
did,
me with a
but
good time, right?
I
Oh my
know.
god. That would make me so happy.
But he did make the big payments, so I know he was, like, involved in the
He
decisions he cared
he knew
about,
what
like
was happening.
yeah, for sure.
I mean,
I
my husband doesn't care about anything.
Mine
Like,
doesn't either.
literally, but he will weigh in occasionally when he loves it. He's like, that is really cool. When you know what our houses are like. You bring something new all the time, especially with the staging. I'm like, oh, I just found this on Marketplace. So let me just lean it
oh
against
my
the wall
god.
real fast. And so when he likes something, he really likes something. And then he has the only thing my husband has like a hard stop on is he doesn't like hidden plugs. He wants to be able to reach a plug. So if I'm putting like a console or a dresser in front of something, he needs like it to be like somehow
Access.
the plug accessible.
Oh,
He's like,
interesting.
he doesn't want to
Huh.
bend down and crawl under something to access a plug. So either there needs to be another local plug, and or like you need to have like an electrical cable or like a slim socket or
Something needs
something,
to
like
be at
bring it.
surface height to get to it. I hate that in hotels specifically when you're like, "Hello,
Just want to
there's
plug
not
stuff
one
in.
free freaking outlet in this place." Like,
That's
I'm
so that's
sure
his only thing.
yeah.
I've said this before. My husband has this, like, way of saying that he told me from the beginning of our relationship, here's the circle. Like he draws this little circle in the air. These are the things inside that I care about. Everything else is whatever. And so whatever the topic is, like I try to just find out, okay, what's inside the circle. In
Yeah.
our house, it's the couch, the TV, and the bed.
Okay.
Like literally that's kind of
In
it.
terms of comfort level or aesthetics?
Mostly comfort
Okay.
or function. Comfort and function. But everything else, he's like, it's outside the circle. So even if I start talking to him about something, he's like, honestly, that's
to
like
be
outside
so
the
free.
circle.
I wish.
It's like kind of a dick about it, but also like, okay, fine. I have
Great.
other people I can tell this story to. Like,
I mean,
like he's not a dick about it, but like if I'm trying to say, oh, should we paint the wall purple or puce? Like he's like, no, like
But wouldn't that be the ideal client? Here's everything I care about.
Exactly.
Everything else is up to you. And if we were able to enter all our projects a little bit like that, right? Like, I care that I have all my knives here in the kitchen and there's a pull out for my 15 cookie sheets. And that is really all I care about.
I care about lighting. I care about rugs. And but the thing is we've all probably encountered this. And honestly, it does happen with the husbands most of the time. Is there's a certain personality that wants to have opinions, or there's some sort of power play going on between the couple. And I'm like, I don't think you actually really care about this, but you're making it a stink because you're weird.
Well, I call that
they
small
have
wins,
to be able
right?
to,
You need to give the other person small wins all the time. And I'm really candid with my clients about that. Like, hey,
yes,
I know they say they don't care about anything, but we need to give him a small win. Like, I know he loves coffee, so why don't we do a coffee bar? You know what I mean? I know he says he doesn't care, but like we need to give people small wins so that they feel part of the story. Right? Like they live in the space. They need to feel like they're part of the story.
I totally agree. But I'm talking about people that start arguing about something that I'm like, no, this isn't what they care about. They're just like having an argument about, I want cherry wood floors. Like
I've been in many fights, not involved, but like
really
the
but you're there and
of,
you're like, okay, I'm in the corner.
Is it the cherry wood floors that you want, or do you just want to be validated?
You just want to be heard. Yeah, they just want to be able
I'll
to
incorporate you in other ways, but can we like not do it with us?
Have you guys ever actually been, because I have, where people start arguing in front of you and they look at you to settle it? And I'm like, whoa. And then you're in a real balance act, right? Where you're like, okay, so like you said, Rebecca, like you're interpreting what the real ask is here. Like, what's the real argument? Who really is there a middle ground that we can pick where
did something happen last night that I don't know about and that we're taking it out in this conversation?
Yeah.
That's for me. The ones are usually there's like some other issue at hand it has nothing to do with like what's being presented at all. It's usually the ones that I've been in. A lot of them are like they were happening even before I was even there, before they were remodeling, before they were doing something in their house. It was something that was already a hot button when it comes to like, we've never agreed on this sofa and she just will not stop bringing up this velvet sofa that she wants. And I do not like it. And it keeps coming up. And it's usually like already bubbling is my assessment of it. Is it's usually been something that's been bubbling anyway. And now they feel like it's more imminent. Like, oh, we're about to buy this now. And I'm still not getting my thing heard. And usually, I make like the awkward joke of like, oh, I wasn't really ready to be a couples therapist today. Like, do you guys want some time? Like, I'm trying to make like a joke, of, do I need to call you guys back? Or I just, or another one recently. I was like, I said, there was one where I was there and they were like, I don't know about this, whatever. And it was starting to get like a little bit, like you could feel the tension rising. And I said, oh no, mommy and daddy are fighting. And then they laughed and it like broke the tension. And they were like, okay, I know. It's not like we can figure this out and come back. And I'm like, okay. Like, it was just like, I have to come in and make a joke.
Nice, like, reasonable
people. That's the GBS though, Sean. That's the GBS. I don't think that comes across from Rebecca. No.
You definitely have to have like that. You have to have a few laughs with them. You have to understand where their humor level is, because not everybody will get that. But it just, I
But
don't
I
want to
want to
be
have
in.
that. I want to have
Yeah.
that. We are in Southern California. You can throw a stone and hit 8 designers. You really can. There is someone for
Yeah.
everyone. And I
Yeah.
might not be for you, right? Like, I like to have a laugh.
Seriously.
I like to know that we are not doctors at the end of the world. No one is dying, right? But I do also respect the numbers we work with in Southern California. These are big numbers. And so for me, that is part of the kind of working with clients I really enjoy being around, where I can
Mhm.
make the mommy and daddy are fighting joke, right? It's
Yes,
important.
yeah, because if they I've had a couple incidences where, like, especially, like, in a consultation once where the husband, like, I don't know what they were talking about, like, it was happening, like, this undercurrent conversation, but the husband, like, left the room and slammed the door,
Ooh.
and I was,
Ooh.
"Oh my god,
Like, do I need to leave? Like,
this feels really kind of
That's
scary,
one of
I
the
don't like
clients I
that."
fired last year. The husband was non-present, but I think it was like my second meeting or third time I'd been there to the actual house.
oh.
And she warned me. She's like, "Oh, just so you know, my husband's in a bad mood." And I was like,
I don't
I
know.
got the ick. I already have the ick on all of this. And then he was like storming around the house on the phone. And her and I were just literally in the entryway. And it's a big house. And
Oh,
all of a sudden,
no.
maybe 5 minutes in, he comes down and he goes, "Do you guys have to be so loud?"
Oh,
Oh,
hell no.
no.
I let go of the project the next week because I was like, I can't work in your house.
What did
That
what was
man,
what was her reaction?
she very initially was, well, in the moment or when I
'Cause when you
broke up
tell
with
them,
her.
like, "This is it," did they already feel that coming?
She really did try to fight it at first, but we had gotten to a really good point where I could hand some things over so that she felt that we had made progress. But knowing what I know about that situation, I guarantee it looks exactly the same 2 years later. Like,
Yeah.
she wasn't actually willing to do much. Like, I don't know
Mhm.
what the
Or not
setup was.
allowed
And
to.
that's what was going to be my next comment. I'm not
Yeah.
sure she was actually allowed to, and even though it was her office
Oh
executive,
Yeah,
god.
for
yeah.
a big firm, like, I don't think she actually was allowed. And all those red flags were there, right? But I ignored them until I decided a couple years ago, I can't ignore these red
I
flags.
know.
It's not good for my mental health.
I've
But
had
in
a
your
few
defense, you
people.
didn't. Like, you didn't get too far. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
you
we'd
saw
nipped
yourself
it.
out. Hey guys, this is your mid-episode reminder to join us over on Patreon.
Yes, for our $5 monthly membership, you help us keep the lights on and help us make the content even better. So where do they need to go?
Patreon.com/HYDC.
You got it.
Thanks, hotties.
I've started finding those, like, playing house people, and I've, like, said that even during a few in-home consults.
Ooh,
It's
what does
like,
that mean? Playing
it's
house.
the, like, they're playing house, but they're really not gonna do the work, or they're not interested in, like, actually getting to a full project. Like, they just are excited about the idea of remodeling a house or furnishing or, like, and sometimes I get it during the discovery call, I catch it and I go, I don't really feel I'm not, like, feeling like you're actually ready to do this. Like, the budgets are here, I'm giving you numbers, you're still giving me, like, hesitation of, like, it feels like tire kicking or feeling around,
Mm,
and I'm
mm,
like, I'm just like, "Is that accurate?" And, like, the ones where I've said that to them, they're like, "Yeah, I just, like, don't know where to start," or "I haven't." I'm like, "Yeah, well, okay, this is why we do this." Like, I do the call so I
yeah.
can figure that out, but I have had some at consult level where I'm just like, this isn't gonna go anywhere." Like, I already can feel it, that it's not actually gonna get somewhere, and that I've had a few where I was like, Rebecca knows, like, I'm in on these projects where I'm just like, "Okay, just hand over this half-assed design package because 'cause they're not gonna do it. They're not gonna order the furniture. They're not actually gonna finish this
Isn't that
stuff." Like,
crazy to you?
it's
Like, is that
wild
not
to spend
crazy to you to
money.
bring in a specialist? Because that is what
Wild.
all of us sat here are specialists, and to not actually plan to spend the money.
It's
Like, and that's why you charge for consults. And
and
I didn't always charge for consults.
that's the playing house to me of like, "Oh, look how cute it would be. Wouldn't it be great if there was, like, a bar
The
over
little
here?" And you're like,
paper dolls.
it would be cute." Yeah, but I'm not here to do would it be cute. Like, if we're gonna do a project, we're doing a
Yeah.
project. If you just want to consult and pick my brain and talk to me, That's why
There's
you
a
pay for
package for
that.
that.
You pay for that. Yeah, exactly. You can pay for that, but I'm here because I actually want to get more projects
See,
finished and done.
I
Like,
guess because that's why I do so many consults, and I only propose let's take it to the next step if I guess I don't think they're playing house. Either like I know they have
yeah.
the budget or like it feels responsible for me to even get involved. So I guess I'm happy to do plain house consultations with people.
A
But
consultation's different than
as
like
long as I
me thinking they're
know
gonna do a
as
project
long
and
as
then
but
it
yeah, I can usually suss that out too, or like, "Oh, no, this isn't going anywhere, and I don't really want it to." That's fine, and if they, like, pick away at this idea I just gave them for the next 5 years, like, what do I care?
Do you not think though that I don't think I would find many plain house consults with both partners, right? Like I find
it's
sometimes
usually
one
one.
partner
Yeah,
wants to
Yeah.
play house and the other doesn't want to play game at all, right? And so that's
yeah.
where like most of my initial consultations, even if the other partner doesn't follow through for the full hour, hour and a half sometimes, I want them there in the first
Mm,
part so that I can shake hands, I can say hi, they have a face with a name, right? Like I don't want
Mhm.
just my name and invoices rolling through. Like I want them to actually have
yeah.
met me and like be able to pair that all up because I don't think I've ever been in a consult with both partners and they're both playing house. Like that seems like fetishy. Like
Oh, yeah,
maybe
like,
a
as a
Yeah.
kink?
grandiose.
A decorating kink? Is that my thing? Like
I think it might
is
be
that what
mine.
I'm into?
Yeah, no, you're
Yeah.
probably right.
So it's part of my vet, right? If one partner
Yeah.
does not want to have anything to eat, they won't even be present for 5 minutes. It doesn't seem like this is going to go super far. Or they're like
Uh-huh.
the client. You had Rebecca who's like, hey, I'm Bob. I care about XYZ. Otherwise, do whatever you girls you'd want to do. Put a pink couch in here. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but at least he had, the willingness to be like, I'm writing the
I
check.
got the sign off. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For
Mm-hmm.
yes, for sure.
Because I think, Sean, you touched on it at the end of the day, there's a huge part of my heart that loves the changes we bring to people's lives and
Yeah.
all the function we add in and the atmosphere we create for them to, have memories and build families in. But there's also a big chunk of it that we want to see it finished. We want to see the wallpaper up and take a pretty
Yeah.
picture and know that like that is part of our whole creative process, right?
Mhm.
And so the tire kicking is a bummer because you're like this isn't gonna go anywhere, like you're gonna continue to live exactly how you live right now.
But I think that's the difference, and we should all, like, celebrate ourselves that I took a lot of those projects, those tire kickers, a lot further earlier in my career,
For sure.
and
Mhm.
they just, like, fizzled out one way or another. Maybe they did the project but didn't let me photograph it or only did, like, some of the things we talked about, and they're gonna roll out phase 2 whenever, never,
Never.
and I'm not gonna shoot it for that or, like, I just never see
Yeah.
the end of it. So, I do feel like I'm recognizing that, and some of it's just budget, like, clients that are too
Hmm.
tight with the budget, whatever it is, it's
Hmm.
too precarious, like, that's too much stress for all of us,
Well, that's one of
um,
the things. So I
and that gets
downloaded your
better.
guys' budget guide. Whenever you guys release that, I forget. I like immediate download.
The
And that
calculator?
has been, the calculator has been a massive thing to do. And I do 75% construction, right? So that calculator doesn't apply to a lot of my business. But when we are talking about furnishings, that calculator is such an incredible tool to be able to send to clients and say, have a play. And I make a new sheet for them with their name on it and all this sort of stuff. And they can mess
Yeah.
about with it
Yeah.
and all whatever they want to do. And I've not had a single person come back to me and not be surprised. Oh, lamps? You're like,
Oh
yeah.
god.
Yeah.
And you need 5 of them.
Yeah, or this made me depressed because like that was one of my most recent ones. And she's like, it was kind of depressing. And I was like, really? And she's like, yeah, because I've never had to think about that. And it's like they're buying this new larger
Mhm.
house. And she's like, I think I'm understanding now that I just don't know what everybody comes in with like their rose colored glasses and thinking, oh, we've got all this tens of thousands in savings and we're just gonna get to do all the things. And the reality check is really valuable to just be like, whatever you thought, you're not gonna get all of that
But then let's do one room at a time. And this is the thing.
Yeah.
I'm not a
Yeah.
budget. I am really not a budget snob. I'm not. Like I literally took on a
Yeah.
new client last week and it's a home office we're starting in. I really liked her and her husband. We're probably going to plug all IKEA in there, right? But it's going to look incredible. Like, and we're going to do some wall treatments and some interesting lamps. But like, I don't have to have the craziest budget, but just to accomplish one room is where I think
Like,
people
let's
get a little
finish
bit
it.
lost. And you don't want to spread it thin because then you don't,
Right.
the ROI isn't there. You don't feel it. I'd rather
Totally.
do one room, knock it out, and call me in Q4 and we will do the next one. Like,
Yeah.
because
I
then
feel
they
the
feel it.
same.
It's addicting, right? I've had so many clients where it starts as one thing and then they're addicted and now they don't like the other rooms because this room feels so good. And then you bring back, and I love a repeat client, right? Like we can work one room at a time. It doesn't need to be the whole shebang. It's very rarely that clients can afford the whole shebang. That's a lot of money.
It is.
Right.
And what's helped with the budget calculator with me recently is even clients that have the money, they don't know what things cost. And if they've never done a whole multiple room project at once, which most people, if they've never worked with the designer, haven't. Like you're buying a sofa here, you're buying a dresser there. So they just literally don't know what to expect or what to budget. And so, like, one client threw out this number that I'm like, that's like you need 5 rooms done, but that's maybe one room. And I'm like, we can like, phase it out. He's like, no, I want to get it all done. So I gave him the budget calculator and he filled it out and it was appropriate. And now we know. Like now we know what it's going to add up to and that's the budget. So I don't know. I think it really just helps people connect what the actual price needs to be for what they want. And yeah, it's either scale it down or level it up. Like you tell me
Yeah.
and we'll
Do
figure
you
it
guys
out.
present a bit more? Like, here is what we can do in your budget, but wouldn't this be fun? So I started doing that a little bit recently. Not crazy. I'm not asking for like double, you know what I mean? But I'm like,
Oh,
here, like, if we also had a little bit more, we could do some wallpaper and some wall
yes.
treatments and not just, soft furnishings.
I don't
Like, and it would
treat
look
like
like this.
the calculator. I don't treat like, oh, you're only going to spend $2,000 on a sofa. No, I look at it as a global number
Range.
and a
Yeah.
gist, like
Yeah.
a comfort level gist. And then, yeah, I'm going to show you what I think will work and a little more.
Mm.
And
I've been trying to
knowing
give
there's a back
extra.
pocket.
I've been trying to give extra because I know what it's going to take to get it done and I want to push it a little bit. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to be non-offensive about it, but I just can't keep leaving stuff unfinished constantly. And I don't want it to sound like I'm on a cash grab, but like every
Yeah.
dollar matters. Every piece matters. Every a bit that I can like get it a little bit more finished matters. And so I'm showing more stuff of like, I could just give you that. You could have a drywall box if that's what you really want, but like, is it really that much more if we add in some paneling or we're going to bring some wallpaper in? Like, what's a Roman shade? Like, calm down, like,
Well, this
Right.
is the thing. We're in the business of transformations, right? And there's only so much soft goods can do. Like, if you really want a transformation, we need to accomplish a few things.
We need to redo this
Like,
fireplace.
and again, that's that ROI where you want someone to walk in and you want them to see the money. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, and it's when you're in construction too, like I am a lot, that goes so quick without seeing any of it. All the
yeah.
boring stuff, the electrical, the plumbing, moving the lighting, like, yeah, it makes a
Oh my
difference,
God.
a big difference, but like, you're not going to feel any of this. You're going to feel that handle that costs $26 and not five from Home Depot. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
Like, that is anytime I bring any of those, I really love during the presentation with the trays is I always bring a couple cheaper options because then
That's a
you're
good
like, yeah,
idea.
that's a $30 pull. Hold it. Now hold this $4 pull. And
Yeah.
I have never had a single person not be like, oh, we want the nice ones. Right? Like, what, we're going to put a custom kitchen in and then put hollow metal pulls?
I
Like,
That's a
know.
really good
you
idea.
so just so they see, because when you start, even you guys know when it's any sort of cabinetry, the numbers add up real quick in terms of how much hardware you need.
Yeah.
And so they're like, oh, but can we find a cheaper one? I'm like, yeah, here, hold it. Tell me how you feel about that.
Yeah.
And literally have never had a single person
Kinda
be like,
gonna
let's go with the cheaper one.
It's gonna save us $500. Yeah, let's
Who
do
cares?
that. I
Yeah.
know. It's like, what's the actual number? And that's like even like tile, like, okay, it's $30 a square foot, but we only need
Mm-hmm.
25 square feet or whatever. Like, let's look at the
Mm-hmm.
total number,
Yeah,
not
and it's
compare.
$75 a square foot, but it's a niche. Like, who cares?
Exactly. It's a
Yeah.
shower. It's not that
I have to
much.
fill like 10 square feet of it. Please just click approve and you're never
Yeah.
gonna think of it again. I promise you.
And there's such a respect there too. Like, I am not someone who is abundant in stacks of money under my mattress. You know what I mean? Like,
No.
it's not, I can't afford myself. So like, you are
Mhm.
asking for a luxury service, and you are asking for someone to show you what is aspirational, and you want to see it, right? And so just giving you something that's everyone's bog standard isn't, don't work with a designer.
I know, and I think that's where what I do is, like, I wanna always put the lens of, did they work with the does this look like they worked with the designer? And showing them things that are a little bit extra, I think is giving them a gift of, like, my sourcing capabilities or my access, and I at least
Mm,
wanna give them that option of knowing what it is. But if I'm, like, pushing something where, like, "Oh, shit, I don't know if they're gonna go for this $10,000 chandelier," I'll have a back pocket item that I can, "Okay, well, what
yeah.
about this?"
Yeah,
So I
right.
have an option, but I won't bring that out unless it seems like it needs to
And then people surprise you. I literally had a client, I was
all the
telling
time.
Sean last night, who I in no world am I showing someone, and this is just the level of clients I have in my local area. Like, as I say, real local, a $38,000 rug. Like, I just, that's not the tax bracket I'm currently working with.
Sure.
I had a client show me a $38,000 rug, and I was like, I mean, yes. Like, I would have shown you some other things had I known.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But it's beautiful, right? And she was texting me over a glass of wine last night saying, I think I've convinced the husband we're getting the rug. And I was like,
Oh my
I'd sleep
god.
on it. But yeah, we can definitely buy that rug.
That's
Can you make margin on Are you
amazing.
making margin on that? Please tell me yes.
No, they did. The company doesn't do trade.
Damn it.
I know. And she sourced it. So literally she just put it in
Eh,
front of my eyes. Like,
Oh, that sucks.
I know.
yeah.
Honestly, and that, like I said, I'm just not in that sourcing level. My clients that I love to work with, like, are good earners. A lot of them are business owners or consultants.
Mhm.
They are double income households, kind of have to be these days. But I am very, very particular about staying local. So I really only serve Long Beach and North Orange County. Like, I don't even like going to Costa Mesa. And if you know anything about Orange County, that is, people would consider that North Orange County.
I
I
know.
mean,
And
it's
for
on the
me, I'm like, oh,
405.
I already had to
It's the
drive. Like,
traffic. It's the traffic. Like, and I can't. But I took this client because she used to work with my husband, and she's in San Clemente, and
Oh, that's far.
the budgets are bigger. The budgets are a lot
yeah.
bigger, right? So you can have a little bit more fun. So now I'm like, oh my God, am I commuting?
Yes, you are.
I mean, for the right dollar,
The right
yes.
house?
And the
Yeah.
right client,
Right.
right? So the only reason I took this on is because she loves color. And unfortunately, I don't get a ton of those clients. She loves color. She's willing to take risks. She is open to advice. And so it was a really, really great. We're going to shoot it in January, and it's an insane project. Like, it's an absolutely insane project. But that isn't necessarily the clientele around here. Like, Sean, would you agree with that? Like, we
It's
don't have a ton of $5 million homes.
no, like
Like, unless you're
our
really focused in Naples or Belmont Heights, kind of.
yeah,
That's all you do.
the like concentration of affluence is not as high in this like southern LA County, northern Orange County region. It's not as concentrated as it would be if you were in West LA. Like, you're gonna hit it a lot faster there. If
You're gonna hit it
Hmm.
faster. I think it's just it doesn't mean it's not there. Like, there's still doctors and attorneys and high
For sure.
earners that live in your area, and maybe their
yeah,
houses aren't as extravagant, but they will want nicer things in it.
right.
So I also, like, Sean and I have been talking a lot about just like portfolio building in general. And my hunch is once you build it, more will come because they're
Oh,
seeing
absolutely.
that. So when you shoot that project with a $38,000 rug in it, it's going to bring in more projects like that.
For sure.
And that's the bit, right? So, like I said, like I've had a couple unicorn clients in this area who have they're almost reasonable budgets, right? When you want to have fun and do things. The majority of people in our area are still really good earners, but the houses are very expensive. So once you buy the house, there's not a ton left over, right? And I love working with those clients. That's 80% of my clients. And I want to work with those clients because I want to see the change. I want them to feel the difference that you get when you work with a designer. And then I'll pick up 1 or 2 unicorns a year. That's great. Great.
Yeah.
That would be my goal, right? If you had one big spender a year and then reasonable clients throughout, like especially as an individual, I think that's a really great goal. I'm not a big firm. I don't want to be a big firm.
I feel like 1 a quarter. If I'm going to be greedy.
I want to buy one $40,000 rug a quarter.
You would have like fewer of those entry level or moderate reasonable people if you could get to a level where you're like, I'm cool if I don't have that many. I need some consistency on that. Like, it's
but I do a lot of construction, right? So I like my income stays high because my construction fees are high. They really are. And so when you're doing a $500,000 renovation through the kitchen and, bedrooms and some bathrooms, like the fees stay high. My biggest chunk of income is not selling furniture right now. It's not selling all that sort of stuff. So those are really fun, but I really am happy to have 1 or 2 a year where I'm doing that.
Well,
I'm going to check in with you in 2 years and see
what you think.
We'll see how this
everyone likes different stuff though too.
It is addicting selling products. Like I would say, like I said, I'm big on construction. Once you start furnishing, they're very lucrative and you're like, oh, but again, it goes back to the portfolio, right? Most of my portfolio is construction. So people aren't necessarily. And then like I did the furnishing job for those clients that found me via the house I'd staged. It's beautiful. I didn't shoot it. You go back to like, what are we shooting? What are we photographing? And it's like, maybe I should. I don't know. Like, again, building that portfolio, you have to kind of weigh things up because I don't think people understand how expensive it is to photograph stuff.
It is.
It's true.
It's expensive and time consuming, especially when you have other busy jobs. You're like, oh, this is like 3 days at least of me getting in and out and
unpaid.
The day of the shoot. Like
unpaid, just outgoing.
Not getting to bill anything for 3 days in a row at least. Like that's
I'm telling
rough.
you though, now that we have the warehouse and knowing that when I have that photo shoot next Friday, I can just walk through my warehouse, source, grab some fresh greens and call it a day. Like,
are you renting it out to designers?
So that is something that I have been toying around with.
Like if I was Sean, I'd be hitting that up.
day of shoot rentals, right?
Yeah.
Because I know as a designer, like you don't have a lot of that stuff. And I have so much vintage too. I'm a vintage hoarder. So like a lot of well-sourced things. And thinking that for just a couple day rental, why not? But I'm like, what is it? You grab a milk crate and you fill it up and it's one cost. Like, I'm just trying to kind of figure that math out.
Oh yeah, like by volume or something.
Yeah, versus, like do we weigh it like
by pound?
And I know there's prop houses that have systems, right, that do that sort of stuff. But I'm just curious. I would be very happy to do it for a very niche selection of people.
I wonder if you tier
traffic.
Yeah, or like untrustworthy. But I wonder if you tier it like vases 10 inches and under or this.
Yeah.
Lamps or this.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about, I now realize, right? You've had happy hour for a minute. You've had your studio for a minute. Once you start having that overhead, you're like, okay, everything has to have a dollar associated with it. We can't be, just being nice and kind all the time, right? Like you can to a bit, but you're like, these are services like that I need to offer.
That's where like you get
it can be reasonable, but
yeah, like I'm not over here saying, oh, every penny of my time is something. Like I still have a generous spirit.
You do.
But I'm not going to just give it away when I know that there's a value behind it and it's going to have either pain or frustration or whatever. Like that stuff can't be free. So the easier it is, the better. I could see it being an experiment to figure out, like, well, does this actually make sense for how much time I had to spend interacting or interfacing with that designer? Because the ideal would be they come in, they pull, they pay. You keep a card on file in case they break, lose, or something gets lost or whatever. And then they bring it all back. Maybe you make them load it up. Like if all the shelves are labeled, like there's a sticker on. I'm designing it for you. Like all the A's go on the A shelf. There's like box, like zones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
my retail background because like when I first started, one of my first jobs was TJ Maxx, and they had a layaway department at the time, and
Okay. Oh
everything
my
was
God, I
like
love it.
they had like number codings to keep. It wasn't just alphabetized. It because you could have a bunch of people with the same last name, and it would overflow a section. So everything was like number coded. So you would go and pull stuff based on like that number system of like it's this aisle and this bay, like how Target and Home Depot do it. And it's like maybe there's a sticker. So it's like you don't have to reload your own freaking shelves when people bring stuff back. Like,
Well, it's that
I
whole
don't love that.
concept when you're running a business, and I know a lot of designers are trying to figure this out, and you guys know it better than most. It's the passive income side of things, right? Where you're
Mhm.
like, what can I do that makes money but doesn't take a lot of time, because it's our biggest commodity is our
Yeah.
time, right? And so you're like, I mean, I have a young child too, and like a
Yeah.
family, and I have a big passion for yoga, and I take ceramics and all these things. So I'm also a whole human that cannot dedicate 90 hours a week to this business.
Right.
So I liked, what can I do to grow the business that isn't adding another 10 hours on every week?
I feel like you
Yeah.
could figure out the designer rental thing with
For
trusted
sure.
designers and not have it be doesn't need to be cheap because it would save me so much time if I
Hours.
knew, "Oh, Heather's gonna have all this extra layer of shit that I need, and I don't have to go to HomeGoods," and,
Would
like
that, now that we're workshopping, would that
yeah.
include like live plants? Because I always
Yeah,
feel like live
yes.
plants is a
I
big
can't
one,
return
right? Where,
them.
If you had some full-size trees or larger,
Ugh,
good-looking plants for a little plant stand moment or stuff like that, because
mhm,
people that is true. People
but you
always
can't
need a
borrow
corner
them.
tree or a whatever
mhm.
and a couple pots that it could go in. You just tie a little bag around it. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
maybe some stuff it could be for sale, like, you would sell it, but some stuff is like, "No, that I've been this
this tree
tree is,
makes me
like,
a lot of
50
money.
it's 50 years old, like, I can't replace it."
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
like, I mean, I go to our local nursery to get plants that I don't know that I'll use. Half of them are
Mhm.
in my house because they don't take them back, and I want,
Mhm.
like, kind of I don't want just, like, a pothos, like, I want something
Yeah,
You want
funky,
a
yeah,
and it's
unique
$40,
tree.
like, for sure. Like, I feel like if I knew I could count on you to just, like I could shop your aisles the few days before I shoot, and I knew I would find it, I would it would save days of my time.
well,
So
because that's the
that
whole thing, right?
amount.
It's like when you're shopping and you need a little black dress, you're not going to find a single little black dress, are you? So, like when we are panic shopping for these photo
Yeah.
shoots, like I have done for years, I'm like, I need this one thing, and you can never find it. So
Uh-huh.
to know that you're going to go somewhere where someone you trust their taste, they've got options, and it's a one-stop shop. You like to chit chat with them. It's an easy breezy
Yeah.
experience.
Like, boxes of vintage books, like, I mean, I'm just have my own
I
little
know.
hoarding here that but then it's also like, okay, I have used that vase in every single shoot I've
Oh, I
had.
know.
It sort of
I know.
becomes an Easter egg for myself, but there's a point where, like, okay, I can't keep using
You
my
have to
same
let it go.
stuff.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
have a little brass urn that like makes it into like every shoot somewhere, right? And she looks
same.
super cute full. She looks super cute with a little single stem. Like you
Yep.
always bring the brass urn, right? So again, that's something that I'm considering. I am 2 weeks into this
I
space,
know.
maybe
You don't need
three. Like
another
it's so
business idea.
fresh. No, no, I love it. We are literally workshopping this, but it's figuring out, I'm so happy in this space that I want to make sure that it works for my
Because you know what
businesses.
else you could
And
do? Sorry, let me
oh,
just add
no,
to
I'm like
this.
literally like writing notes.
Write it down.
Because some of the local girls we've talked about doing like a prop closet where you go to market
Mm.
and buy from what's
Like
the
Accent Decor or
yes, where you have to
Creative
buy
Co-op.
exactly, where you have to buy like 5 things at a time. So you
Oh,
could
yeah.
have a section that is for sale. Like, I have 5
Hmm.
of these trays, like, sell
Mhm.
it. Like, so take it, stage with it, and definitely try to sell it. So you're also having stuff moved, and you can bring in new stuff from market and
Do you
have
guys use
multiples.
Fair?
I've bought some
FAIR?
stuff on there.
I've shopped it, but some of it is it's the same idea.
This is and
it's cheap. Like if you go to market and shop Creative Co-op, I mean the things are like $2. It's like $2 a vase, but you have to buy 12.
Yeah. And you're like, I
Yeah.
only realistically need 1 or 2 of these for a project, and then maybe the other one is styling or something like that occasionally for just a shoot. But
that's the big goal with the staging, is that eventually you do purge and sell. And so you've used this one couch 15 times, 20 times, and then you sell it. Right.
Yeah.
So like you've earned on that couch over and over again, and then you sell it at a really discounted rate. Right. And it just keeps winning. And that's where we have found that business to be really feeds right into the design business very well. And now we're in a bigger space and it's growing, and we're just trying to figure out, can we layer something else in there that serves the community of designers that we have around here? Like I said, throw us on 8 designers where I live.
Yeah. Make your stuff keep working when it's just sitting on the shelf. Okay, if I didn't already have 3 businesses, I would be.
Rebecca doesn't need one.
You'd be so good at it too. Do you have storage units, Rebecca? I feel like you said you. Yeah. What's in them?
She said reluctantly.
Like,
you want to drive a truck down? When you
I know. I have some like really cool vintage dining chairs, and I do need to refinish one of the things that I don't know. I don't know what what I'm going to do.
Do you plan to place them, or is it your personal collection?
They need to be placed or sold. I actually, though, do have one vintage sofa that's been in that storage unit for a couple of years that I am going to put in my living room. So I'm actually going to work on that in the next month or so. I'm ready.
Yeah.
Now, right. I mean, I probably now paid several $1,000s for it in storage fees, but
yeah, that's the thing.
It was free. Started free, so there's that.
I mean, but now you're paying all the storage costs. So like the average cost of it just keeps increasing.
I know, but the thing with vintage is you'll never find it again. Like it has to be unique enough. And that's, I mean, I think we have the same affliction is like.
And it's an affliction. It really is. Because you're like.
This lamp somebody found in the Goodwill bins for $2 and gave it to me. My friend who like dumpster dives, and it's like this hand thrown like vintage pottery lamp that's 2.5 feet tall. It's amazing.
Yeah, and you'd sell that to a client for $500. You know what I mean? Like you would never sell it. You would never sell it.
Not that one. I have
some things, but it's a short list. It's a real big short list of things that I have found for nothing that I use in shoots, I use in staging, but I can't ever really sell it. So in terms of like taxes and things, I can still purchase through the business. I use them for the business, but they are like a forever acquisition. Like it's not something I don't know I'd ever part with unless, I really get sick of everything and I sell the whole lot. But
you might, but also you might want to do it just to purge and restart on new things, or as your design style changes and adjusts, you don't want to have the same stuff that's like infiltrating that. So it makes sense too to like clear it out, make some space. And
Absolutely. We're probably on maybe about a year. We'll be having a big warehouse sale just because we need to refresh some things. And like you said, we're sick of photographing it. So on to the next. And
okay, I'll bring a truck down. Maybe I'll bring a truck down, sell some of my stuff, and then pack it back up. Yeah.
You can back your truck right into the warehouse. It'll be safe.
Yes, oh my God, exactly. That's a whole other journey for that.
Put me on the invite list.
I know. I'll have to get martinis in a shaker. What do you call them? The freezer martinis?
Yeah, the freezer. You have to do a freezer martini in the metal. If it's in a metal shaker, it is. My husband does this for me, and he's like, "Okay, when I'm going out of town, you have 4 martinis in the shaker." It is so cold, it actually starts instantly giving you frostbite when you take the shaker out.
Oh, because you're touching. Hand. It's like
It
like transfers, and it's like a 1/2-inch layer of slush because he puts the right amount of vermouth or whatever has water in it that it actually freezes. Oh my
Terry,
God,
I can testify that he does do a good martini.
He really
Yeah.
is.
Oh man.
It's in the
One
circle.
day.
It's in the circle.
Yeah.
Well, Heather, this was so fun chatting. I
Thank
can't
you
wait
so
to come
Thank you
down.
guys for inviting me. Like you said, it feels like you're just sitting with friends, which is one of the reasons I love your guys' podcast so much. I'll text Sean like, we don't get anything this week.
Aw.
I know.
And, I'm a Patreon member and I join the Hottie Hangouts and all of that. And it is really such a community that you guys have built that I think is so necessary for so many of us that work for ourselves. You know what I mean? Where you maybe came from an office background and now we built our own things, which we love, and you can never go back.
Right.
But to be able to have the community and the chit chats and realize that like everyone's also wondering what's going on and what we're doing.
I know.
We're all just faking it.
And just like-minded. Like, you're our people for sure. And like our hotties in that group totally are. And I don't know, it just feels very safe and
yes, because there are some unsafe places in the design community.
Yep.
That's why we did this. Like it's and I think what like helps with all of it is like bringing that spirit and energy that you've brought is like, okay, I'm equally
you
like learning from this,
and
but
give.
also like contributing back in. So there's a reinvestment on that from everybody. And I think that's the spirit that really embodies like why we did this is we were doing the same with each other. And then it's really just awesome to watch that exponential effect that it has on other designers to see something that they otherwise wouldn't get.
And hopefully it's clear we don't have all the answers. So we're still looking,
But
you know,
that's
like,
what I mean, right?
We
So
need your help too.
The themes are definitely community over competition, and that we are all kind of fumbling through this together, right? Because there is no, and clients need to understand that too, there is no rule book. So when you're going to engage a designer, you really have to figure out how they work. And it is not a one-step process for everybody and, a single model that fits everyone. So it's,
right.
I think realizing in our meetups and through your guys' podcast that there are so many variations of how to run business that is beneficial to clients, beneficial to the designers, like everyone can win. I think it's been really, really helpful.
Good. Thank you for being part of that
I
with
know,
us.
thank you.
Yay!
And thank you for being on the show. Do you want to remind the listeners real quick again where they can find you?
Yes, mainly on Instagram because I am a millennial, and that is at Heather KW Styles. I'm also on TikTok, but maybe just normally creeping on TikTok, not really participating too much.
Same.
And then the website is under the same www.heatherkwstyles.com. So reach out, DM me. I'm an open book. I do some community work in terms of like talking with people who kind of want to branch into the business and stuff like that. Like I really ask me how much something costs. I'll tell you. Like I really like.
You're awesome.
Here's the info.
Yeah.
So
somebody needed it. Careful, you're gonna have a full DM inbox. You're gonna have to.
I know.
Get those organized. But thank you again for being on. We really appreciate it. This was awesome.
Thanks, guys.
So until next time,
stay hot, designers.
Thanks for listening to the Hot Young Designers Club podcast.
For more on what we talked about today, check out the show notes.
Your support helps us grow, so share with your design besties.
And subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts.
Our conversations continue on Instagram.
And be sure to download our monthly resources on our website and our Patreon.